Cool. So one thing that really stood out to me from the first episode was when they talked about, so the literal, what they said was, it is the outlier that saves every civilization. And I really enjoyed, or not enjoyed, but yeah, I guess my IP self was really resonating with that statement, and like how we need people who are standing on the sidelines calling out the bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry for swearing. And yeah, now I notice again, like I don't even, which is something I will try in the next, as we go along, like I don't even know the specific sentence in scripture that was related, like what, I don't even remember who said it. And it's also like, it's not important who said it. It's just that that stood out to me, like that, like we need the people that speak out when there's a need to speak out. We need the EP whistleblowers. We need the people, we need the IPs that are very connected to themselves, but then fear speaking the truth. But we need them to speak up when it's time to speak up.
You know what that was about? That was about the Egyptian or Hebrew. It's very in the text elusive on what it was. Women who didn't kill the Egyptian babies as ordered by Pharaoh. So I think that's where they were tying that in. They were tying it in with the minority of people, especially since it was women, just standing up against tyranny, even if it's in a subtle way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which maps to the other point about like and now I would have to look it up, but I can look it up, the freedom and tyranny. Yeah, that was my first point. If it is the voice of God speaking to you, then it is going to call you out of slavery of your own mind, the slavery of external conditions, the slavery of tyranny, into freedom, even if that pulls you into the desert. And yeah, I resonated with that a lot as well, as like, I interpreted the voice of God here as the presence, like, and now I'm like, I just mean presence in general. I don't mean any religious presence, because I have to distance myself or something. But it's interesting, like that kind of wording, like seeing it as like me being present with the world. And yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about now.
I think that, I kind of, on that same note, I called it something a little bit different. My point was like the proclivity of humankind, kind of like wrapped up in what you're talking about, just how we tend to, unless we have the people who stand up, that minority, right? Whether it be the IPs who just go, I don't care what you think, I don't care how you feel, whatever, I'm going to stand up against this. And then your whistleblowers, your EPs who just go, this is wrong, we're being lied to, whatever it is. But I think that the desert, though, is a really good point. Moving through the desert, there's a lot of times in scripture, I have to close my eyes, it's visual. There's so many times in scripture that one of the main characters goes through the desert. So we have Joseph goes through the desert. He's coming up later, right? No, he was before. He was Genesis. Joseph was in Genesis. And he's the one who brought prosperity to Egypt before Moses. Okay, but he went through the desert. He was sold into slavery by his brothers because they were jealous of him. And he was in prison and all this stuff. It's like, they talked a little bit about this in the video, how you have to go through these, analogy type deserts in your life to grow. Like you have to go through trials. It's almost like you have to be forced, like I'm going to sleep last this right now, but you have to be forced to look inward and really, do that processing, that internal processing sometimes. And I think, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just realized how they are linked. Like being the outlier is its own desert already. And then if you speak up, that it might be like the loneliest place on earth if you have to speak up against something that everyone thinks is true. And then, yeah, what was the other thing? Like, it's also like, yeah, I remember, thanks for giving the details on the midwives. Like, there's points in life where you really have the choice. Are you going to do the right thing, or are you going to do, I don't know what the other thing would be, not wrong necessarily, but the easy way out or something like that? Like, are you going to be brave enough to do the right thing?
Well, they talked a lot about following. They didn't call it following your conscience necessarily, although I think that did come up as well, because something that, that was something that was new for me. They talked about how the morality is not, it transcends culture or tribes. It's not tribal. It's like everyone it possesses it. It's innate. And this narrative is very specific to point out the people who were not Israelites, who were not specifically God's chosen people. So Pharaoh's daughter who saved Moses, the midwives who saved the babies, were not God's chosen people, but they have that morality, that inner voice.